Step 4.
Step 4. The big, long, scary step.
Yes. We made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves.
This is a step that a lot of people end up not doing. People stop at this step. And they will do the first 3 steps because those steps are more, people think that they're just kind of realizations. But there's a lot of action to be taken in the first 3 steps.
Talked to a guy today that has been struggling for several years, and he's never gotten past the 3rd step.
Yeah.
Because he's scared to do the 4th step.
Right. And he probably hasn't really done the 3rd step.
Mm-hmm.
In step 1, 2, and 3, we are building a new identity as a recovering addict.
Mm-hmm.
We are losing our identity as someone who is getting high all the time.
Mm-hmm.
We're building some new values. But now we have got to deal with the past.
Mm-hmm.
We have to deal with the baggage that we're carrying around with us. And for a lot of us, we don't really know what that baggage even is. We're just carrying it around. We don't really know what we're carrying around.
Because we tried to not think about it.
Right. And maybe for some of us have been using since we were teenagers. And so it's like, well, who am I even?
Right. You hear that a lot.
Yeah.
I don't even know who I really am.
Right. I don't know what I'm all about. I don't know, if I've got these fears, insecurities, resentments, I don't even know what they are. When I work with people who are writing a 4th step, it never fails that their first attempt is very short.
Yeah.
Because they're like, well, I don't really have a lot of resentment.
That was me too.
And there's a method to this. I don't think the 4th step should be done alone. It needs to be done with someone else. The writing has to be done alone, but there should be some bouncing around of it while you're writing.
Especially if you get a little foggy, especially because when I thought I was going to do this in a day or 2.
Right.
You know what I mean? Just blow past it. But when I really started thinking about it, this was a long process of my brain letting it just do its normal thing, but then I had to take note of when I needed to write something down. So you're driving down the road, and all of a sudden, I remember when I was 12, I was being made fun of for so-and-so, and I'm like, why in the world did that just pop? Well, write it down. So then I go, well, this time when I was an adult, this really upset me that so-and-so said this to me, blah, blah, so I wrote it down.
The instructions that I give to people on a 4th step, I don't know if it's the instruction that everyone gives. This is how I was taught. What I tell people to do is to literally write down every memory that you have of being offended, hurt, or angered in any way, no matter how petty it is.
Because if it pops into your head,
then it matters.
It's in your head.
Yeah, it's in your head.
You need to write it down.
That's right. If you can remember it, you write it. And so that time when I was in the 3rd grade where the other boy, got the attention of the little girl that I had a crush on, well, that's a petty thing. What does it have to do with today?
Write it down.
But write it down.
Because step 5, we'll talk about that.
That's right. And you think about, well, what did that thing, how did it affect me?
You want to hear something so ridiculous, but I wrote it down.
Please.
Is in 5th grade. We had eggs in an incubator for the whole class. They were going to hatch, and everybody was going to get a chick to take home. 2 of the eggs didn't hatch, and I was one of the ones that drew it that didn't get a chick.
That's prime inventory right there.
Dude, I remember that. Why do I remember? For all I know, my parents called up the thing and said, don't give that boy a chick, whatever you do. You know what I mean? I don't know if that happened, but I'm saying that's one of them.
It sounds silly and ridiculous now that we're adults. But at the time,
I was embarrassed. I was mad. I was hurt.
And so those experiences, even those little ones, will shape how we react to situations, even in the future.
Bingo.
And that's what we need to look at. What are my reactions when I am offended or hurt? How do I react to it? Do I act out of fear? Do I act out of dishonesty? Do I become a people pleaser?
Well, let's just go right into step 5.
Yeah.
So, hold on. Okay, so anyway, we'll talk about step 5, but those 2 are so chained together, they have to be done the right way.
They need to be done, and they need to be done pretty quick, one after the other.
Because step 4 is it's so important to get you're as much as you can down on paper.
Yes.
To me, it is anyway.
That's the thorough part of it.
That's the thorough, and that's so hard for people to have to relive that because it very well could involve extreme trauma, triggering PTSD, everything like that.
This is why the first 3 steps are so important to do. This is why this is not step 1. We have got to start to have an open mind and start to have faith that this is a method that will be helpful, even if it's painful to write down and to say, this is going to clean house. It's very tempting to think that now that I've turned my will and my life over to the care of God, I'm a new creation, I'm brand new, the past doesn't matter, I'm forgiven of everything. And while that might be true, we're still human beings,
and that's
that
part
are
of
shackled with this mind. We can't escape that.
And that's part of, I think, answering my own question. When you turn it over to God, and you go, okay, well then I don't need to eat, wear clothes,
Right.
or do whatever, and I lay on the ground. No, there's a lot of work to be done, and we got to take some inventory here and find out what our own part of this thing was.
And that is the godly thing to do.
Yeah.
To work. This is a lot about forgiveness.
Yeah.
A lot of this process is about forgiveness. It's about
Anger.
having peace with your past. It's about you don't dehumanize the people that hurt you anymore.
It's so important, as all these steps, when you find out they're in the order they're in on purpose,
Right.
because they build on each other. So step 4 is
It's
a toughie.
I think it's so critical. And honestly, I don't think people can stay clean and sober long term unless they do this kind of work.
I agree.
I just don't think it's possible.
4 and 5 are absolute.
It's really
huge.
The
The
work.
rock. Yeah, the work.
It is. It's the foundation that the rest of it is built on.
What about you? Did you have problems with step 4? Have you done step 4, or are you scared to attempt to do step 4? We'd love to hear from you in the comments.
Please let us know.
Yeah.